Good luck. Good luck.
1. Okay, and we're live.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Power BI Lunch and Learn. We are now with episode 3. Today we've got two exciting talks from Sheb Rehman and Ben Howard. My name is Alex Taylor. I work for Rob Walters, the leading recruitment company based in Manchester, recruiting IT, BI, data, finance professionals across the world. So quick intro from myself and today's session. So firstly, thank you to everyone that tuned in for the last 2 sessions. We've had over 150 people for both each session, plus over 100 people joining in to watch the recordings on playback. So about the Power BI group, which we kind of working in partnership with today. So we go for best over 2.5 years. We've got over 6,000 followers on LinkedIn now. We've got 2,000 members on Meetup, and we get 80 to 100 attendees when we can have face-to-face sessions. And if you are in Manchester and want to attend our sessions, hopefully we'll be kicking those off late this year once restrictions have been lifted. So the huge group sessions are fun. We have sessions every month, and we can share documents and demos, etc., like the sessions we've been doing with Ben, Sheb, and Lewis. A few testimonials there. Obviously, people are very happy with the sessions, and I'm sure most of you guys are regulars anyway, so a few reviews there. About me, as I said, I'm a BI data recruiter, data enthusiast, meetup organizer, and I'm passionate about data. So if you are looking for a new job, do hesitate to get in touch with me. My email address is alex.taylor@walters.com, and my mobile's there. And if you are looking to hire someone, let me know. I'll be happy to sort out onboarding with remote options during this difficult time. Today's agenda, after my intro, we'll be starting with Sheb Rehman, followed by Ben, and then we'll wrap up and close. We might be having some issues with the chat box. Sheb will let me know, but if you're struggling to put questions on the chat box today, please do comment on Meetup, and we'll do our best to answer those as best as possible. So quick intro. Sheb is an MVP Power BI trainer and BI architect with best part of 10 years experience. He is MCSE certified, and he comes highly recommended. I've known him for about 4 years. And Ben is a trainer, consultancy owner, 25 years IT experience, mainly around Power BI and Project Online. And yes, he comes highly recommended and has spoken at these group on various occasions. So without Lewis, who's not speaking today, he'll be answering the questions as best as possible. He'll be involved in next week's session, is a MCSA BI contractor and consultant with over 10 years experience, specialising in the BI stack around Power Apps, Power BI, PowerShell, you name it. And that's me. Over to Sheb.
Thank you very much, Alex. Okay, so we are going to start with my screen. So if you bear with me a second, I'll have that up. Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to see my screen now. So this is today's episode. So we will be going through errors, exceptions, and bookmarks. So we'll start with myself, but later on we'll be looking at the wonderful world of bookmarks with Ben Howard. Now he'll show us how to effectively utilize bookmarks in your report. So there've been a lot of changes in that area. So he'll take you through a couple of user cases for bookmarks and how you can best use them in your report. But we'll start with me. So we're starting with Power BI exception reporting. So exception reporting is, as we've mentioned, is something that is sort of present in most companies, and most companies that I work with generally benefit quite a lot from exception reporting. So today we're going to go through looking at some of these. Okay, so let's start my slideshow. Okay, is that looking at the right screen, guys? Am I? Don't know if you can see that. Okay, exception report. So what is an exception report? So an exception report highlights inaccuracies or bad data, outlines missing values, and shows data that is not essentially sort of following the rules. Now, that picture doesn't really give it justice, but that's a cone that's not following the rules really. But there's not many pictures out there that show exceptions, so that was the best I could do. And as our job as developers, you know, we need to showcase these inaccuracies and bad data to the user, you know, the best way possible. And then that should allow them to quickly and easily, you know, clean that data and update that source system, etc., with a minimal effort and minimum interaction. Okay. So in today's example, what I'm going to do is show you, first example, just a basic report. So outline missing values in a particular report and what effect this has on the reports. And then we're going to go through another example where I'm going to build one from scratch and show you how to highlight these in a bit more detail, and then try and remove some of that manual sort of intervention, instead of having to go to reports and look for these errors each time. We'll look to build a process where that sort of automates itself. Okay. So I'm just going to start Power BI now. Okay. So just give me a shout, guys, if you can see Power BI loading on the desktop. If there's anything different, just let me know.
Sheb?
Yep.
We can't see Power BI. We can just see your Power BI lunch and learn picture.
Okay. So you didn't see the presentation?
Nope. Just your.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just bear with me. Let's try this. How's that look?
Yeah. Yeah, we're all good, mate.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going through this particular slideshow. So this was the image I was talking about. It probably didn't make sense before, but yeah, essentially what we're trying to do is highlight bad data or data that's not following the rules. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is go into a report that I've built earlier on. Okay. So I've developed this report. So what's the first thing that you sort of see, or what a user would see in this report? Okay, yeah, we can sort of see the values and the data, etc. But the first thing I get questioned on is, well, what's this blank here? Okay, what's this blank? You know, that's sort of that whatever the item is quite significant. It's grown 69% over the past year. You know, where is it? What is it? Okay, ship mode here. I can see the first thing I see is blank. Okay, I don't really care about the figures. You know, why is it blank? What is it? And whether you're a user or a developer, you know, blanks are, you know, issues that occur in pretty much every report. And what people tend to do is say, okay, well, the way we can do it is go into our subcategory, for example, here, and we can say, well, let's just click on here and we'll click on where the subcategory is not blank, and then we'll apply that. Great, that's got rid of it. Yeah, and then we can do the same here. Go to the ship mode, and you can go to advanced filtering. You can say where it's not blank and get rid of that. Great, but not really, because now we've got rid of the data that might be important to someone within the organization. So just hiding blank values doesn't really help you as a developer, because you're not showcasing the right information, and secondly, it doesn't help the user because they can't actually effectively analyze that information and see what's what. Okay. So essentially, you should have your blank values in here, but then have an exceptions report to be able to sort of handle that. But then how can we do that? So a simple way we can do that is by creating a page that has just a simple data table, which has all the different values in there, and then a list of all our different filters across here. So first of all was our ship mode. So now we can see in our ship mode filter we have a blank value. We can click on that blank value, and then instantly that gives us all the information, all the sort of rows that have that ship mode blank. Okay, and because we've got our line ID, our order ID, we can then go to our source system, find that value, and then update that ship mode. Okay. Similarly, with subcategory, we can see there's a blank value here in office supplies. We can go into here, we can have a look at subcategory. We've selected all the blank values, and we can see that all the subcategories in here are all blank. and then we can see our line ID and we can see our order ID there. Okay, so let's go back to our source system. So our source system here in this case is this Excel sheet. Okay, so I'm going to open up this Excel sheet, and then I'm going to go to line number 54. Okay, so line number 54, if I scroll down here, I can see, okay, yeah, there is no value there. Okay, and there is no value here as well in the subcategory either. Yep. So this is another way where we can sort of simply say, okay, well, let's showcase what data is empty. Let's give the user an easy way to go and filter that data to the blank values. Then we can go and find that data in our source system. We can highlight who it is, what department it is, what product it is, what subcategory it is, find that particular record, update that, and then come back into the report and refresh that. Okay, so in this instance, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to my ship mode. I can see all these ship modes are all empty here. Okay, so I'm just going to update this. So I'm going to say find all the blank values and replace it with standard class. Okay, perfect. Then I'm going to go to my subcategories and then I'm going to highlight these. I'm going to find all the blank values and replace that with fasteners because I know that's what it is. Okay, I'm going to replace all those as well. Okay, I'm going to close that. I'm going to save that into back to my source system. Then I'm going to come back to my report now that I've updated it. I'm going to hit refresh. And then hopefully when that comes through, that'll update my report and then remove those blank values from that page there. So as soon as I come into here, you can see now the subcategory blank value is gone, the ship mode blank value is gone, and if I go back to my sales report now, I've got my standard class here, and I've got my fasteners that now appear in here as well. Okay, so that's one way we can do our exception reporting. We can highlight blank values in a separate report on a separate page, have users, give them an easy user interface to go and filter down to the blank values, give them the information and the details to go and find that record, and then update that record so that when the data refreshes, the report will be updated and we'll see nice, clean, updated data. Okay, so that's our first example. So the next example we are going to do is we're going to start a brand new report from scratch. So we're going to bring in some more data and we're going to try and handle some errors. Now, so we're going to go to our Excel source, and this is our sales example 2. Now, this is the same sort of data set, but just sort of a denormalized sort of data set here. So if I go and have a look at it here, yep, and then go to transform. So you're going to transform, and when you sort of look at this, the data in here, Power BI gives you a sort of quick overview, and it shows you, okay, with these statuses at the top here, that yes, all your data is valid, it's excellent, it's good. But what that does is it only looks at like a subset of the data. So at the moment, it's column profiling only the top 1,000 sort of rows. Okay, which is fine. So if there's an error in the top 1,000 rows, okay, you know that it would pick it up, but if not, it wouldn't. Okay, so I'm just going to go and quickly just apply this and then bring that through. And then hopefully that'll be all okay. So I'm bringing that data through. It's all coming through nice and easily. And then suddenly I've got a problem here. Okay, so now I've got some, excuse me, I've got some errors. So I'm going to view my errors and say, okay, well, what's wrong with my data? So suddenly it's found some errors and we need to go and view what those are. So if we go into our sales example, it brings up another query folder here, and what it does is pull out those error values and puts them into a different query here. So we can see here that it's brought through our ship date and it's given us some errors in that ship date. So in this data set, the order date is automatically created, so that's all okay, but the ship date is actually entered by the user. So we can see if we click on here that someone's put in down here at the details, someone's put in Dave Jones, and it's given us a detail output here. But it doesn't give us the detail output anywhere else. It only gives us it as we sort of click on these different values here. So we can see that now all these different values have been put in which are incorrect, and it couldn't pass it as a date. Okay, so let's go and try and handle that now. So the way we're going to do it is this way. So we're going to go to our sample example. Okay, first of all, I'm going to take a duplicate of that. Okay, I'm going to call this one exceptions. Okay, back in our first sales example, I'm going to go over to my ship mode. I'll right click, and I'm going to say remove these errors. Okay, so now from this column, it's going to remove those errors. Right? If I go into this exceptions report, I'm going to say to it, actually keep my errors. Okay, so now between the two of these, we've got all our data, one with the errors, one without the errors. Okay, now I'm just going to get rid of this top query here, the error query that it brought through automatically, just because we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to delete that group there. Okay, so we're left with our sales example, and we're left with our exceptions. So even if we brought this through, if we clicked OK and apply, it would come through and it would say again, there's an error with your data, etc., etc. Okay, great, thanks a lot. But it doesn't do anything with it. And what we want to do is bring that this information here, so the information that we can see down here, we want to bring that through to our reports. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is add a new column. So we go to column, we're going to add a custom column. And all we're going to do is say, okay, call it error. And then we're going to say, I want you to try and pass that ship mode as the value, a date value. Okay, and that's all we need to do. Try and ship mode. And then that puts in a record here. Now, if we click on this record, you can see it gives you has an error and gives you a value there as well. So what we're going to do is expand these, bring that through. Ship mode, let's have a look. So get the errors. Ship mode, ship date. I've gone wrong. So we're looking at the ship date and not the ship. Thinking there, that's errors false. There are errors there. Okay, so we'll expand this. So you can see that it has got an error, but then it brings another record through. Okay, now in this record, it's got the different values that we saw earlier on. So now we can expand this and say, okay, well, I want to bring my reason, message, and detail through there as well. So now in our data set, we have got the reason, we've got the message, and we've got the detail that's causing that error. Okay, so before we import that data, we'll remove this one here, and then we'll go to our actual column that's causing the error, and we'll remove that as well. Okay, so now in our exceptions table, we've got our exceptions, and we've got the reasons for that now. Okay, so now we can close and apply that and bring that through. And hopefully this time we won't get any errors because we're handling those. We've handled it in our, actually, let's have a look at this. So it's brought it through again, sales example, and coming from, let's have a look at the source. From here, ship mode, remove the errors. Delete that group. Close and apply that. Okay, that's that. Okay, so now we've got rid of those errors. We've now got our normal report, which we can report on here, which will give us our line ID. And let's just have a look by region. Just do a count ID, so that's working okay. But then what we can do is go through our exceptions report, and then we can create a report based on these exceptions that we got now. Okay, So we can select our line ID. Okay, and we'll put this as a count. Okay, so we can got 5 errors. So there were the 5 errors that we had. So we can put count of errors. And then underneath, we can have all the detail for those as well. So we can have the message, we can have the reason, we can have the salesperson responsible for that as well. And then we can have things like the order ID in there, etc., etc. So all the detail that we need for that error, we've now got in this here. Now we can make this look a lot prettier, but this is just obviously a quick example that we're showing here. So here we can see that we've got the count of errors here. Down here we can see what values are giving us errors, so we can see these particular lines in our particular data set. Can't pass it as a date format. This is what's being entered in there at the moment. This was a salesperson that's dealing with that, and that's the order ID that's there. So what we can then do is then go to our data source again, as we said before, and if I go to sales example 2 over here, and if I go down to line 9990, okay, so that's here, Control F, 9990, okay. Well, right down to the bottom, we can see that, yes, these values here under ship mode have all been entered incorrectly. Yeah. So again, that's a way we can sort of pick that up, put into a separate report, and then create some visuals on it. But what we're going to do, we're going to extend this a bit further now. So now what we're going to do is going to publish this report to the Power BI service. Call this example. Okay. I'll save it there. I'm going to publish it up to the Power BI web service and show you what you can do with it there. Should have signed into this earlier on. Just bear with me. Okay, so I'm just going to publish that up to my workspace. Because what we want to do, we then want to highlight this. So there's something that we can do up in the Power BI service that we can let it sort of give us. We can allow it to send us an alert. So what we'll do is open this up here. Okay, so this is our report in Power BI service. This is my count of errors. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pin this to a new dashboard. Okay. Call this exceptions. So now I've pinned that particular KPI to a dashboard. Okay. Now on this dashboard, I can then go to my more options and I can go to manage alerts. Okay. And I can add a rule here and say, okay, well, for this count, if this goes above 0, I want you to send me an email. So I can add that rule in. I can tell it to send me every 24 hours or every hour. Click and close. Now every time that data refreshes and that count increases or is over 0, I'll get an email. I can come straight into the report. I can have a look what's going on in my exceptions report by clicking on here, see exactly what data is there, and go and sort it out before anyone else goes and sees that data. Because you don't want, the last thing you want is your manager, your users, coming to you saying, well, there's all these errors in this report, why are they there, etc., etc. And you can get ahead of that by doing something like this, by creating that alert, by going into your report and then handling those before it's sort of too late. Okay. Now the other thing we can do in here, so sometimes you don't want to have an exceptions report created, or you don't want it to be visible. Okay, so what we can do, we can hide that page. Okay, and on here we can create, what I like to do is usually create like a hidden link or a button for someone to go and be able to find that without all the users knowing exactly where that is. So here what we're going to do, we're going to add in a quick button. Now this is excuse me, this is stepping on the next talk slightly, but hopefully Ben won't mind. So if I go into here, and I'm going to give this button some text. So the default state for it, I'm going to keep it blank. Okay, I'm going to put it right in this corner. I'm going to keep that blank, and I'm going to get rid of the background, and I'm going to get rid of the outlines. Okay, so when I click on, there's nothing there. Okay, but what I'm going to do is on the hover, I'm going to say exceptions. Okay, and then fill on hover. I'm going to change it purple just to show it. So now I can say, well, there's a hidden link in there. Oh, there it is. There's my exceptions. Okay, now I can apply an action to this and say, okay, I want to go to my exceptions report, which is on page 2. So now when the user comes in, or you've got an alert, you've received an alert online, okay, you've come into the report, you can go hover it down here, suddenly exceptions report appears here, you can go into here and then view that detail there, and that's something that you can also put online as well. Okay, so that's the second way we can effectively sort of handle errors in our report. We can bring those through to the service, we can apply an alert to that, and we can then handle that before it sort of gets too late. So just a quick overview of what we've done. We've sort of showcased a simple example of how we can find not empty values. We created a new report and handled sort of errors that occurred there. We created a couple of visuals, although not great. We created the art of the possible there, what we can do. So we created an exception visual. We published that to the service. We added that to a dashboard. We then added an alert to that KPI so that we can keep on top of it. And then we created a hidden link to access that exceptions report so that not all the users have access and have the ability to sort of see that. Okay, so thank you very much. That's come to the end of that particular talk. I'm guessing that there's no Q&A, unfortunately. I don't know if that suddenly magically appeared for anybody. But if it hasn't, please send some comments on the meetup on LinkedIn. Send us out any questions that you might have regarding this. We'll post this afterwards as well. And if you do have any questions on this, we'll endeavour to get back to you on those. Okay. So thank you very much. I'll pass over to Ben in a second. And while he prepares, I'll just give you a quick overview of our sort of lunch and learn sessions. So don't miss our season finale on the 27th of May. We've got a prize giveaway in which 6 people will win some fantastic prizes. We will be creating a random generator in Power BI on that day, which will sort of pick out 2 or 3 sort of attendees for prize. Okay, so I'll pass over to Ben, and then hopefully we can take you through bookmarks.
Okay. Thanks, Sheb. Thanks, Sheb. Just a quick heads up. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thanks, Sheb. So let's rock and roll on a little bit on bookmarks. Let's do that. So my name's Ben Howard. Sheb says, I can't remember the last time I sat in a beanbag, and I can't remember the last time I read a book, but I can remember the last time I drank a cup of tea, which was about 5 minutes ago. So thanks to Sheb for that. What are we going to cover off? We're going to cover off bookmarks. This will be quite, hopefully we'll cover a lot of stuff, but there's bookmarks are themselves interesting. So let's see where we go. So what is a bookmark, first of all? Well, this is a Microsoft definition. A bookmark, of course, captures the current configured view of a report page. So the current configured view of a report page, including any filters and any state of a visual. So if you've spotlighted a visual, or you've expanded a visual, so it's filling focus mode, you've filled the full page of it, those are also saved with a bookmark as well. So really think about a bookmark as a capture, and I'm going to use the term dynamic capture, but a capture of the state of the screen, whereas of course the actual data that you're displaying will of course be relevant to whatever is in your Power BI report. So if the data changes, that's fine, but the bookmark captures the configured view of that page. All right, so what does it actually capture? Well, it captures the current page. Which page are we on? Any filters that we may have applied, any slicers, including the slicer type, drop-down list, slicer state, etc. Visual selection state, so any cross-highlighting of filters, the sort order, drill location, visibility of an option of an object. That's actually quite useful because we can hide and then show different objects as well. And as I previously mentioned, the focus mode or the spotlight of any visible object as well. So it captures a lot of stuff. There's, as I sort of started to put this together, I thought about, okay, well, we have desktop and we have the service. So what about the desktop? Well, this is obviously where you configure most things, because as report designers, that's often what we do. So it's useful for having kind of predetermined views. So if I wanted a view of, maybe we'll do one of gender or of age, then for my demo, then we can capture those predetermined views. Nicely as well, you can begin to build yourself a nice presentation, so you can walk people through a set of bookmarks, and you can order your bookmarks and you just click on one bookmark to the next, to the next, to the next. So it is a way of kind of more formalizing a presentation mode within the desktop service as well. Navigation is a useful one, so you can navigate around your report, and perhaps I think this is perhaps the most useful one. So again, you can publish this onto the service and you can provide some nice buttons which effectively hide the bookmark, which moves you around the pages. And we can add some interactivity. So we'll do this one. We'll look at just choosing a visual, but there's a whole host of different options. And when we can become a little advanced on here, so we can do nice things around slider controls, which is effectively the same sort of functionality that we've got just on choosing the visual. If we look at the service, once something's reported or published out to the service, then you do get all of the same options that you would expect to see in the desktop, but we also have the ability to additionally have something called personal bookmarks. So you can create your own bookmarks as just a consumer of this report, and you can then decide to set that personal bookmark as your default view as well. There's also in the service a button which says reset to default, which resets all of the kind of bookmarks and filters back to default. We used to do that because it wasn't in the service. We used to add that into Power BI reports all the time. There's no need to do that, but it probably will become my first demo. Okay, bookmarks are one option, okay, which we can drill into, but bookmarks also take advantage of the selection pane, which I've already mentioned, and we're not just limited to kind of bookmarks. We can bookmark other objects, so specifically icons or buttons or your own shapes, and that's what I typically do. I'll bring in my own shapes and images and we'll bookmark those as well. So that's the preamble. Demo time, so let's go and have a look at running a demo. So again, these demos will be available. This demo, this file just called bookmarks, just has a set of data in there. It's about activities, okay, for an athlete. So effectively, we're working out how many miles and displaying how many miles an athlete has run per month. So we can have a look at Sally. And of course, these things change as you would expect. Fairly simple. So let's just say that let's go ahead and create a bookmark. So in the View tab, there's actually a bookmarks pane or bookmarks side pane. And we can see in here, we've got the option here to add and view a bookmark. So it says use bookmarks to capture key data for yourself and others. And here it tells us how to do this. And actually we have a nice link onto the web as well. So filter your data to get the state you want to capture and then click add. So let's just say we wanted to have a look at Jim and Joanna's running here. Okay, so I've done some filtering effectively. Obviously I've not used the filter, I've just cross highlighted. We can click add on here, and that's going to add Jim and Joanna's view as a bookmark. Okay, now we can see it's here, it's called bookmark 1. What would we do for that? Well, firstly we'd rename it, and if we're doing some modifications we can update it, we can delete it, we can group it. Let's just rename it. So I'll just have this as standard age category. Let's say these guys are runners, and if we wanted to view that, then I can click on the view option here. Notice if I'm viewing in the desktop, then it tells me what bookmark we're looking at, bookmark 1 of 1, and it shows me the bookmark name, standard age category. I've got some left and right buttons here where we could click through a certain set of bookmarks. So this is where you'd begin to formalize a presentation using the Power BI desktop. I'm not always sure that's the best way to do a presentation, but you know, we at least have the option. I'll click on X from here. We'll take Fred. Let's just say Fred is part of the veterans group. So again, we're just going to add in a bookmark for Fred, and we'll just rename this, and we'll just say he's a vets. He's a vets runner, not a vet as in, you know, something that you do. So now we can click on standard age category. We see what Jim and Joanna are doing. We can click on the vets. We can see what Fred's doing. Sally, though, is also a veteran. So age 44, you get to that age as being a runner, and you go in the vets category. So now I'm going to highlight Sally, and in fact, I'm going to update the vet category to include Sally. So Sally and Fred are our veterans, and our standard age one is Jim and Joanna. So that's okay. I'm going to group these two bookmarks together. So I'm just going to click on group here. We'll rename this group to be age category, runners, and you can see that at the moment just includes the veterinary guys or the vet guys. I'm just the vet. What do we call them properly? Veterans. They're veterans. I'm just going to then grab standard age category and put it into there. So now if I click on view, I've got the two bookmarks here that I'm looking at. So that's okay. We'll come out of that. Now it may be that we just want to associate a bookmark with a button. I mean, that's your standard bookmarks there. Let's go and do that. So I'm going to do the old thing that we used to do, which was put the reset bookmark back on here. So let's just click on insert, and here we've got some buttons, and one of these buttons is a bookmark button. Now this is no different to any of the other buttons really. It just defaults one of the options. So I'm going to select bookmark. It puts us a little icon there. It's not necessarily very pretty. We can go into that visualization. We can change the button text. So we will just say that this is reset. Filters or view. Okay, so that's going to be our bookmark, but we've not yet able to associate that with anything. We haven't got the right bookmark to do that. Down here we've got an action, and again this is very similar to what Sheb showed you. So here we've got the action. When we click on this, what's the action type? Well, in this case it's a bookmark. And then what bookmark do we want to utilize? Well, we don't have the right one for resetting everything yet. So let's just come out of here, click back to here. This is our bookmark for effectively everything's being reset, no filters, etc. So let's just add that in. We'll just rename this to be reset. Go back to this bookmark here, And now we've got the, whoops, now we can say that that's the reset piece. Okay, so now if we have viewed standard age group or standard age category, we can come in here, we can click Control click, and we can reset everything back to scratch. Okay, now notice, you might think when we present this, if we wanted to present a report around you know, the age category of our runners, and clicked in here, let's just exit out of there, let's do it this way. That should have been happy for me. Let's do it this way. Sorry. Let's click on standard age category, then click view. You can see that now I'm looking at one of two bookmarks. So when you present, if you use bookmarks for presenting, always group your bookmarks, click into the grouping that you want to present around, and then you can just scroll through the two bookmarks which are part of the age category bookmark. Notice we're not seeing the reset bookmark as an option within this lower pane to scroll through. So again, it just needs some thinking about and some setting up. Okay, so that's okay. Let's exit out of there. What I would typically do is I would change that to be a shape or an image. The image I would use, I'll show you, of course, is one that we nicked up off the screen earlier. It's that one. Okay, that just says reset to default. I borrowed it from, obviously, the Power BI service. So that's okay. Let me just duplicate this distance one. Duplicate that page. One of the other things we can do, again, just to show you some of the power of bookmarks, is to integrate bookmarks with the selection page or pane, if you like. So maybe I want to change the way this particular image is displayed. Now, I'm a bit finicky about this. I don't always like, you know, I'm a report designer, so I don't like people to change the visualizations, but you know, this is a good example of how we might use a bookmark. So what we can do is we can associate, or the process for this is I'm going to create another visual here. Okay, so let's take this visual, I'm going to copy it, and then simply I'm going to paste it again. Okay, so we should have two visuals called number of miles by month. Let's just see if we've got that. If we click on the view tab, we click on the selection pane, then actually I've still only got one. Let me just hide that. So if you use PowerPoint, you use the selection pane in PowerPoint, this is a similar sort of process, but perhaps not quite as powerful. Let me just hide that. Yeah, number of miles per month. We didn't copy and paste that. Okay, so this time, home. Normally I Control C, Control V. We'll copy that, and then we'll just paste it. And now we've got two number of miles by month. Okay, difficult to reference which one. You can rename one. Okay, but if you rename it, it renames the title here. So sometimes you just kind of have to figure out which you want. So let me hide that one. And then the one that I'm looking at is this one. So this one, which is here, I'm going to change that to be a different graph. Let's just have a line chart. Okay, in fact, we won't have a line chart because I haven't got a line chart icon. We're going to have a pie chart. Okay, a bad example, obviously, of any sort of visualization is a pie chart, but that will do it for us. Then we're going to hook this up as a bookmark. So let's go and add our bookmark back in, and I'm going to click on add, as we've seen before. This will be pie. Okay, so that's our pie bookmark. And if we add that visualization back in and hide that one, okay, that's going to be called bar chart. So again, we've got two bookmarks. What we can now do is associate each of those bookmarks with a different image. So if I click on insert, we go to image, then here we've got that nice image, which is a bar chart. We'll just make that a little bit smaller. We'll go back into image again. Let's insert our pie chart, which is there. Okay, now this is an image. So with the image, we can have an action. And with that action, again, we want the bookmark. Which bookmark do we want? We want the bar. That'll be okay. We can put a tooltip on here, display bar chart. And with this one, pie chart, we'll do the same sort of thing. We'll have an action. The action, of course, will be a bookmark. The bookmark itself will be the pie. Display pie chart. Okay, so that's fine. That should all be set up. Let's just go and test that. If we click here, we get the pie chart, and if we click here, we get the bar chart. So it's a nice way of adding some interactivity onto the screen. Okay, we could have another button which said show me the veterans, or show me the, you know, the miles by gender, etc. So that's fine. We've got, let's just call this visuals check. Now we could save this whole thing as a page as well, or as a bookmark as well. So again, if we come back into into view, bookmarks, then I'm just going to add this, and I'm just going to say, let's just change this to be visuals. We'll set this one, we'll have one for distance as well. We'll say add that, we'll just call that as distance. And we could do one here for the navigation page. So this page is going to become my navigation page. Let's just add one in here. Rename that. We'll just call this, or the home page is what we'd often call this. So what we're able to do now is we've got bookmarks which take us to different pages. Okay. So again, one of the nice things we can do is we can go and add in some navigation options, or some navigation buttons, if you like. So again, I've just got some images here. We'll just do one. Insert one. And then with this image, we put some text on it, or we click a go-to page or something like that. And again, on this action for here, we'll just say that that's a bookmark. The bookmark we'll go to is the distance page, and then we're going to add in our next bookmark. Again, a bit like Sheb, I would finesse this in terms of you know, the visuals aren't great, but this is more about, in half an hour, how we might implement this. So that will go to visuals page. So again, people land on the home page, you might publish it like this, and then you have some information and say go here, and then that takes us again from a navigation. In here, then I would have a standard navigation which potentially said go back to the home or go on to the next page, so people can easily navigate around a report in a similar way they would navigate perhaps around a web page. Okay, so that all works quite nicely. I want to show you one other thing before we publish this. So if we open up this one, just bring this down here. We've got a button here, or a page called miles or kilometers. And all I did on here was I used a visual again, which we hide, which allows us to display or move between showing the number of miles and displaying our graphs by miles, or by kilometers, because we've got both values as part of the activity or part of the table. So I can literally just control click on here. The slider slides across. We're now seeing information in kilometers. and we control click again, and we're now seeing it back in miles. So that's a kind of advanced slider. That's a really neat way of displaying interactivity on the screen. We're changing the way the type of data we're displaying, but we're not changing the visuals. I always like to be in control of the visuals that we're displaying. Okay, so let's just publish this. I love this when you realize you've logged into the wrong account. So let's just save this. I'll throw it up to my workspace. We'll just have to open a browser now, which is in the right one. Okay, let's that come through. Okay, got that. And if we bring this one down, okay, logged in as the right account. Now we should have in workspace, we should have a report called bookmarks. Bookmarks end was the previous one. Let's just have a look at that. So remember, all the bookmarks that we have published will be available for us. So here's the reset filters, here's the navigation page. So this just will all quite happily work. If we look at the visual check page, okay, then these two buttons of changing the visualizations work. What about the other bookmarks that we hadn't really linked to a shape? Well, we can either click on view bookmarks pane here, or we've got a bookmarks option here. So if we have a look at other bookmarks, those bookmarks appear in the bookmark pane. So again, we've got the grouping of age category, so we can just go and see the vets versus the standards. We've got the reset, which of course just kind of resets all of the filters. So sometimes this can be a bit not dangerous, but people don't understand what's happening in here, because we might just click on distance and say, where does that take us? Well, it didn't really change anything. Or if we click on home, you know, that obviously takes us back to the navigation page. So sometimes these can be a little overwhelming. There's not the ability to hide any bookmarks. What we can do in the service, though, is create our own bookmarks. So maybe I'm interested in Fred and Jim. Okay, they are gender male, right? So therefore I can create a personal bookmark for Fred and Jim. We're going to add that in, and this is just going to be male athletes. Save that one, and then obviously we'll create one for Joanna and Sally. We'll add that one in. That's going to be female athletes. They can't spell. And I'm going to make that one the default view as well when I come into here. So I'm going to click save. We'll go back to my workspace. We'll do some other stuff in home. We'll go and have a look at, I don't know, something else. Then we'll come back into my workspace. We'll come back into reports. We'll have a look at my bookmarks, and lo and behold, it's going to say, okay, you've got a default bookmark here, Ben, called female athletes. Let's just display that. So that's personal and referenceable by myself only. Obviously, I've got the standard sort of breadcrumb in here, and we could go and view then other bookmarks. So clicking in here, we'll go and have a look at male athletes instead. Other things we can quickly do in here, as you would expect, is we can update, rename, delete. You can have actually multiple personal bookmarks of the same name. Okay, so that's pretty much me, I think, done for bookmarks. Just in terms of more info, these are on the slides, but of course from in terms of best practice, etc., then kind of plan carefully. There are no bookmark admin settings. You can't hide bookmarks. So if you publish something out to a service and you've got a strangely named bookmark, you can't hide it. Plan them carefully. Think about what you're going to use them for. So I think navigation and navigating around your report is really useful. Putting those links on pages I'm not keen on changing visuals, but I might change for data. So miles versus kilometers, I wouldn't change bar chart potentially versus pie chart, etc. We might have some predefined filters that aren't in your data. Okay, so Q1, Q2 probably would be, gender might be, but category you might not. But you know, you may do that as a report designer. Hopefully you've captured your customers' requirements, and they may say, hey, we need a vets category and a super vets category and a children's category versus normal, and they would create that in Power Query. If not, because your users are doing some ad hoc report, then of course you may help predefine the filter quickly, or you may not be able to want to do that in Power Query. So again, don't do this necessarily in a way that with work that you should be doing in Power Query. Those things should be done in Power Query, but there are other options where you might want to just quickly predefine some filters. And that was about it. Not only was that it, that is it from me. Hopefully that was useful. I'm going to hand back over to Sheb.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ben. That was a great presentation. Hope you guys learned a lot from that. Okay, so just before we go, I'm just going to show you what we expect from next week's episode. So next week we have myself and Lewis. Ben's going to take a rest, and we're going to be covering design, advanced Power BI query, and many-to-many relationships. So when are many-to-many relationships okay to use? Okay, so Lewis will be going over, he'll be extending his IMDb report that we looked at a week or two ago, and he'll be adding to that and showing how and what use cases that many-to-many relationship is okay to use. I'll be covering report designing, so we'll utilize some of the tools in Power BI, how to effectively create a nice showcase report in Power BI with the tools sets it's got, and we'll be utilizing bookmarks all the way through the ones that Ben has demoed today. So we'll be utilizing a lot of them and showcasing that next week, and how to create an effective design when creating a Power BI report. Okay, so just before we go, if Alex wants to say a couple of things. Alex.
Hi, Ben. Hi, Sheb. Thank you very much for today's talks. Really appreciate it. So we'll be back this time next week with, as Sheb said, report designing and advanced Power Query. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Apologies we didn't get the Q&A to work, so we'll make sure that's fixed for next week. But if you have any questions, feel free to send them through to either Sheb or to Lewis or to Ben, and we'll try and answer them as best as possible. But enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon, and we look forward to tuning in to next week's session on the 13th. And do share the recording with your friends, colleagues who we do think this session will be of interest. But have a great day, and thank you very much to Sheb and to Ben. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.